Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Am I on? There we go. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us as we're here to share our experiences from Northern Ireland. We hope and pray that our experiences and our testimonies will shed some insight as to how God worked not only through this trip, but through each and every one of us. I also want to thank you all for your generous donations towards my missions fund. Without it, I would not have been able to go to Northern Ireland with this wonderful team. So Pastor Claire already kicked us off with prayer, so I'm just going to get straight to introductions. For those who don't know me, my name is Dominic, and we're going to do this. One of my favorite foods from Ireland would have to be their Starbursts. They are far different from American Starbursts. They actually taste like what they advertise to be. So an orange actually tastes like an orange. Yeah, that's my favorite food. So I'll kick it down the line. So just say your name and your favorite food from Ireland.
Awesome. I'm Daniel. My favorite food was this Mexican place called Guapo. My original question was it was a lot further away from Mexico than we are, so how good could their Mexican be? No, it was fantastic. We had it twice, and 7 days we were there. So no, it was awesome.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I think my favorite food was actually the Indian food. Quite nice, actually.
Hi, my name is Steven, and I love to judge countries based on their ice cream. So my favorite food over in Ireland was their vanilla ice cream. It was fantastic.
I'm Casey, and I think my favorite food was we had fish and chips, and the fish was really good.
I'm Vanessa, and my favorite food was also the fish and chips.
Hi, I'm Kendra, and I think my favorite food was also Guapos.
I'm Jason. I also go Guapos. Dom and me can talk about those nachos for a long time.
So good, so good.
Hello, my name is Elliot, and my favorite food might be this thing that was called a veggie roll. It wasn't a veggie roll though, it was like a really good beef jerky rolled up into a little ball. So yeah, I'd say that's my favorite food.
We also, a good chunk of us did also have the Irish breakfast, and that was also very, very good. Probably one of the weirder things was the white pudding or the blood sausage as they're called, but yeah. So I wanted to kick off this panel with just sharing a little bit about what we did over in Ireland. So share about the different ministry that we did while in Ireland.
We went there to work with young kids. I don't think they were pre-K. It was mostly middle school to about kindergarten. We worked half the day with kids that didn't know Christ, that weren't exposed to Christ, either them, their families, or even extended family. We worked with them in a drawing program, just to get them acquainted, to get a relationship built with us and these kids. And then the other half of the day, we did an actual VBS ministry program where we worshiped, we talked about Jesus, who he is, why he's important, why he loves them, and then continued on with hanging out with them and spending more time with them as foreigners.
To kind of go off what Andrew said, it's a really cool concept that Tom and Brooke, the missionaries that we would had. So basically, they will teach they call it cartoon camp, but art camp that Andrew's talking about, and it gets the kids into the church, and then sometimes if they want to stay, so there's the normal church kids.
They can't hear you.
I'll go closer.
They can't hear with that.
Just closer to your, yeah, there you go.
Okay. So the kids will come to the cartoon camp, and then after that, some kids will stay to do the VBS school after, or the VBS camp after, but then other times, some of the kids just go home, but then throughout the week we saw kids asking to stay for the VBS camp, so it just kind of like, it's like a nice like little in way for them to get into the church through that.
We also had a little art gallery at like the end of the week for the kids to bring their families to like view like their masterpiece that they've been working on during the week. So we also got to like get their parents and like their families to come to the church, which was really cool.
And I think to add to the context of why we went over to Northern Ireland, for the longest time they've had a bit of a struggle with what they call the Troubles. That was like the majority of our, so to speak, training to prepare ourselves for Ireland, where it was, Catholics and Protestants, like they were, really butting heads to the point where it was like practically a civil war. So we learned about like the history of that and just where the state of like religion and Christianity and just what the perception of Jesus was in Northern Ireland, and it's very shaky still. And so what we were there to do was to not only support Tom and Brooke Harshberger, who, as Casey said, led the cartooning camp, or what they call Party Create, in just creating an avenue for kids to not only to draw and just to have fun, but to also provide an opportunity or an outlet to be immersed to Jesus. But we were also helping the Hills Church, which is practically like one of the only churches that like actually talk about Jesus there, like a Christian context. So basically, like we were there to just bring families, to bring kids into this church, to get them introduced to the church, because again, it's just very shaky over there. It's not quite as, I guess, established as say here in America, or even El Salvador. For those of you who were here last year, like El Salvador, like they're definitely hungry for the Lord. Ireland is, I would argue, probably the complete opposite, where they need to experience the Lord in a way that is not as confrontational as the Troubles or the conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants were. So that was like the main sort of like crux as to why we went over to Northern Ireland. I don't know, does anyone else want to add to the ministry we did? I mean, we pretty much covered a bunch of it. Cool. So next question would be, what was something significant that God did in your life through this trip? So how's the Lord impacted you through this trip, so to speak? Not all at once, guys.
I think for me, God showed what is possible here in the U.S. Ireland's a first world country, much like the U.S. is. They have the same stuff we do here. They're not a third world country where they don't have like internet, they don't have TV, anything like that. But the amount of energy that we as a team put into the camp when we got there after a wonderful travel day.
Which we will talk about.
Yeah. The amount of energy that we put into working with those kids there, even though we didn't know them, it gave me a glimpse into what is possible if we put the same amount of energy here on home soil. And even more so with the church we worked with was pretty small, much like this church actually, and we were able to work with 100 kids a day between both programs, and seeing God move and through the kids, through us as teams, through the California team that was also there, on such a smaller population, it gave me a glimpse into what we could do here on a larger scale with a community that is more open to Jesus here in the U.S. than it is in Ireland. So mostly it just
shouldn't as possible?
I would say, for me, I know this was towards the latter end of the trip, but I remember there was a night, it was, I think when we had just finished all the ministry, we were just at our Airbnb, we were just settling down, and we were all prompted to just get one-to-one with the Lord, to just pray, to dive into His Word, to just, again, seek Him one-on-one. And when I was praying, one of the things, or the main thing that was going through my head was the Lord just gave me visions of all of these drawings that I did as a kid. And some of you, to those who I have requested drawings from, know that I actually brought said drawings. So like all these drawings that I did as a little kid, I, never realized that it would pay off. Yeah, I got a lot of Hulk ones in here. There goes one. I have a lot of, I didn't really think it was going to amount to anything. I mean, all these Larry Boy drawings and like Lightning McQueen and another Larry Boy one. And like this one was another good one, like my dad's car. I even got one, like this one was a good one. Like, got all these from, this is 2008, when I was just in, first grade, kindergarten? All these drawings just popped in my head and like the vision, and it just got me to realize that the Lord has planned this trip for me far beyond when I signed up for it. And to those of you who do know, like I went to school for graphic design, so I do I'm, the one who designed this, I'm the one who designed that, I'm the one who designed that awesome flag out by the front sign, and, I never realized that all of this was amounting to like this trip. And when I was doing the cartooning camp, I was really in my element, and I could use that as an outlet to introduce these kids to Jesus, to the Lord. And when I had that realization, like some of the fellas here can say, I was bawling, I was crying, because all of these drawings just, I never realized the payoff to be so impactful. Like, here you go, Chris, here's one of you. Yeah, like it's just so wild that all of this amounted to, even the drawings that I've done here at St. Elias, like I think this one is from this very building. So, yeah, I would say that's probably like the biggest way that the Lord has impacted my life through this trip. So, if anyone else wants to add to that.
Yeah, sorry. This was my first mission trip, and I'd always been told that like you're a lot closer to God on the mission trip, and then when you come home, you're further away from Him, whatever. For me, it was kind of the opposite. I was planning for this trip for months, and He was answering. I was getting like all these scriptures prepared, right? And then I go on the trip, and I'm hearing nothing. And so Andrew and Casey were our leaders on this trip. And so I went to Andrew about it, and I was like, what do you think this is all about? And Andrew had given me some advice, reminded me of one of the things the missionaries, Tommy Brooke, had told us was, we're probably not going to see the fruits of our labor. And we really didn't. We saw maybe a tiny bit where, students got more comfortable with some of the VBS and church stuff and getting more comfortable with Jesus. But we really didn't even see the type of things that we see here in America, because it's so much harder out there. And then another thing that Andrew reminded me of was, for so long I was preparing for this trip, that when I went on the trip, I was still in that preparation mindset. And he had compared it to a soldier in battle, where like before the battle, you're preparing your shield, your sword, all that, you're storing up weapons before the battle, but a soldier doesn't like go back and still prepares while he's in the midst of the battle. So that night I went and I read all the stuff that I had prepared, read over all the devotionals that this awesome team gave every meeting that we had. And that next day I felt just peace from the Lord. And that really taught me that if you are in the mindset of where God is placing you, it's going to be hard, but you will have peace because it's one of the fruits of the Spirit. So
That's good. Anyone else on how the Lord impacted you through this trip? Not all at once, guys.
I think kind of to go off what Daniel said, I lead college age, our like young adults group at our church, and sometimes it can be like a little discouraging because like there's not always, you don't always see like the fruits of the labor and people come and go, and it's not like youth where like kids are there because their parents drop them off, and so sometimes you like wonder like, is it making a difference, is it making an impact? And I think like throughout the trip, like we were supposed to go to Ireland last year and we didn't go due to like reasons that we couldn't control, and then the group and this team has completely changed since then from a year ago. And so just to see how God was so intentional and like, this group of people needed to come and just like he would have done and rearranged all those things just for one like child in Ireland, or even just to like that we were there to help, and he's just so intentional and timely in those things. And so I think that was just like encouraging for me just to say like just to see that we might not see like the fruits of our labor in this moment, but like God is still working behind the scenes, and it could take a year, it could take a year and a half, you just never know.
That's good. That's good. So moving on to my next question, what was, and I think I know the answer for this one, what was the most challenging to you while in Ireland, and how did you overcome it?
Alright. So we're going to skip over the fact that we had to go to Boston to get to Ireland. It's a whole other conversation. For me personally, I hope it's okay sharing this. I was in a relationship for a long time before the trip, and right before the trip, we decided to not be together anymore. That person also ended up going on the trip. They're not here, so you don't have to look and figure out who it is.
She's not here, it's okay.
She's not, you can judge her, she's not here. No, please don't do that. But it was very difficult for me because, you know, you've been dating somebody for a year and then all of a sudden you see them on a trip, on a mission trip, serving the Lord, and they're with somebody else and there's nothing you can do. So your focus needs to be on the Lord the whole time, but your focus is being shifted to everything that goes into play with going through a breakup and moving on. So to answer the question, the most challenging thing, that was it. I had to keep my focus on the Lord and not worry about what's happening in her life, what I can do in my own personal life. I had to keep focused on the mission we had, which was to serve the people of Ireland, to serve the missionaries in Ireland, and to help build the kingdom. And the enemy certainly tried everything he could on this trip to distract me. There were times where their new relationship was brought up and I would just have to leave the room because it was a distraction for me. Did you overcome it? I did. Not because I did it on my own, but because I had 5 other gentlemen on the team with me that helped me through when I was facing adversity. So.
Good. I'm surprised no one's mentioning the airport story.
I was gonna say Kenny.
Go for it. These people want to hear the
Okay, I'll tell the
story.
airport story. So from the beginning? Okay, so our flight, I'll try to make it short. But our flights, we were leaving from Harrisburg Airport, and then we were supposed to have a layover in Philadelphia, and then from Philadelphia to Dublin Airport in Ireland. And so we were waiting in the Harrisburg Airport, and it got delayed, and then it got delayed again. So we missed our connecting flight in Philadelphia. And so, long story short, we made it to Philadelphia very late, and there was no flights for us to leave the next day. Andrew and I were working with American Airlines. Everything was just locked. And so our pastors back at home, they were working on their laptops trying to figure out they're like, guys, just go. It was 2 a.m. in Philadelphia. We got you a hotel. Just go take the shuttle, get some rest, come back tomorrow. We'll try again. And so we're waiting for the hotel. The hotel canceled on us. And then we found a new hotel, so we go. And by that point, it was 2:30 in the morning. and our pastor had called and said that he had five tickets confirmed, but there's 10 of us, and the other 5 who didn't have the tickets had to go in the morning back to the airport, get our tickets, and then we could go back and sleep until the evening when the next flight was. So my 5, we went to the airport to get our tickets at 5 a.m. and there was no tickets, and they didn't even know what I was talking about. So thankfully she did read the notes from the conversation they had on the phone the night before, and so she was like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do, and then finally she said, wait, there's a flight at 6:30, it's 5 a.m. At 6:30 a.m. for you guys to go to Boston, and from Boston you can fly to Dublin. You'll be there 20 minutes before the other 5. So I was like, turned around, I was like, guys, do you want to go to Boston? And so we went to Boston, and they didn't even like skip a beat. Like I was so proud of them. I don't know, it was just a really cool moment. It was like chaotic, and I'm not spontaneous. I'm not so spontaneous and crazy, but we didn't have a choice. So yeah, we ended up in Dublin, and then our luggage never made it until Thursday, and so nobody like complained, nothing. Everyone was just good. So yeah, but that was our crazy challenge, and I learned how to deal with airports really well, and yeah, I got our bags back, so it was good.
Crazy.
My challenge.
Yeah, crazy, wicked story. So last question before I open it up to the congregation. What was a funny moment on this trip? I'll keep it to 3 stories because I'm opening it up.
My favorite, we were, all the guys were in this van going towards the city center, leaving from the church. And the missionaries have their kid Manny. And Manny was insanely tired. He was like crying and laughing at the same time. He's like a year old, like just...
Not even, I think.
Not even.
Yeah.
So all the guys, we were like, well, how do we get him to calm down? We start singing nursery rhymes, right? So everything from like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, the ABCs, Old MacDonald Had a Farm, all the guys are just singing all these nursery rhymes. And we were gonna get to Let It Go, and then he kind of fell asleep on the way back. So that was nice, but that was my favorite.
I should note that all of those nursery rhymes, I give major props to St. Elias for teaching me all of them. Thank you, Sunday School, for teaching me.
Okay, I know one. Andrew, over here on my right, is, in my opinion, one of the most monotone people I've ever met in my life. He really is. He's Andrew. But we are on our 3-day walking around, and Andrew always wears a sweatshirt that says, Jesus takes naps, or something along those lines. I was like, Andrew, where's your sweatshirt? He goes, I left it at home. That's how he really went out with the monotone. I feel the emotion in his voice. He deeply missed it.
It was an important sweatshirt.
Oh, that was good.
My favorite part, my funniest part was probably, I call it late night Dom, but Dom was just so funny after, like when he would be so tired after missions, it was so funny. I don't think we've all ever laughed so hard. Just like, it would just start us off, and then every night would just be laughing at something, so.
The weird thing was, all I would do is just react. Like, I would just look over at something that they're doing, whether it be minute or really weird, and they would just like bust out crying and laughing. It was absolutely crazy. One more story, and then open up to the congregation.
Alright, so I will tell a brief story on, so we were driving home from Northern Ireland, crossing into Normal Ireland, and we had stopped at this gas station. I wasn't sure if I wanted to share the story or not, but I think I will somewhere halfway through. So Daniel down there, wave to the crowd, Daniel. So Daniel was in the far left stall of the bathroom. For some context clues, not that you can hear me, it's okay. So Daniel was in the far left stall of the bathroom, and he hollers at me. He's like, Elliot, can you grab me some toilet paper? And so myself, I went to go grab him some toilet paper. So I go to the far right stall at that point to get him some, and I thought that he was in the middle stall. And so I go to the middle stall person, he wasn't taking it, so I tap the guy's leg or whatever. Still didn't end up taking it, and then I hear Daniel yelling from across the other side that it's in the other stall. Oh, snap. And so I go over, I end up giving Daniel what he needed. And then out comes the person from the middle stall, like 280, 300, something like that, and straight face, doesn't say a word, just walks straight to the sink, washes his hands, gets out of there, and I see Daniel come out, and I'm like, Daniel, I touched some guy's leg. And that was the bathroom advisors.
Oh, that was great. That was good. Okay, we have time for one more story if anyone has one. All right. So I did want to carve out some time to open questions up to the congregation. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I know some of you, I told the airport story to 1,000 times. But if you have any questions about the trip, the ministry we did, or any other funny stories, feel free to ask us any questions. If no one has questions, I have another question I could ask, but I figured I'd open it up to you guys. See if you guys have any questions for any of us about Northern Ireland.
What's the weather like?
It was clear.
Yeah.
It was clear. There only rained a little bit on Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
It was after our whole ministry was done. For the most part, it was cooler. I think average 62, 61 that entire week, and cloudy.
Yeah, I would equate it to a traditional fall weather here in Pennsylvania, assuming it wants to stay consistent. But it was pretty nice, and we were told actually that it was pretty nice for when we were there. Usually it's a lot more wet.
They consider it a heat wave.
Yeah. It was really, really good weather.
The hottest day was 70, and all of them there were like, this is way too hot, we don't know what to do, and we're wearing pants and sweaters out here, this is cool.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. But yes, that's what the weather was like. Any other questions?
How big was your groups that you went and talked to? How many
Kids we talked to, or?
kids, adults? How big was your?
So it varied from the programs. So I guess I'll speak on the Party Create. So I would say each table had, up to 8 kids, I would say. 8 kids a table, and then 2 to 3 leaders per table. And then we were split up, so we had one section of the church that was dedicated to the younger kids, myself, Casey, Daniel, and Elliot, Hadassah. We were with the little kids, and then upstairs they had the bigger kids, which I can only assume was similar count. So I know for my table, man, I love those kids. I call them my boys. They were an absolute blast, and ironically enough, a lot of their drawings reminded them of mine. But yeah, so I would say that was usually the count for Party Create. There would be some times where they would all group up together for a break time or something. But yeah, I would say that was about it for Party Create. What would you guys say was for the VBS?
Probably about 10 to 20 a group, I'd say. There was only one group that had a few kids and then put them into another group, but each group was about 10 to 20 kids.
Did you break them up into age groups or just?
Yeah, I don't know what the exact age group was, but we split them up. Like I said, 10 to 20. This is.
I'm not sure what
second grade.
I'm not sure what the VBS one was.
Total of 50 kids in that one too?
PBS was red, yellow.
Oh yeah, so we split them up. We ended up putting them into 4 different groups.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, they were pretty much split up. Like from my understanding, I was doing other things. But yeah, I think it was pretty much like by age. It's like, again, 4 teams or something. And then you guys also have like a good amount of leaders per team, right? If I'm not mistaken.
We had about 2 to 4, I'd say.
Yeah.
2 to 4 per team.
Because we also were tag teaming with the California team, and how many people did they have? They had like 15 people on their team. Yeah, something like that. So a lot of Americans at that church that week. But yeah, that's probably what that distribution was for the most part. Yeah. Any other questions at all? Yes.
This is for each one of you. Knowing the kids that you worked with, if you had a shoebox, what would you put, give me at least one thing that you would think they would need in that shoebox.
So for context, they have a shoebox drive every year where they compile a bunch of like essentials and like some fun stuff like school supplies and stuff every year. Yes. So that is the context for that.
I can go first for this one. So my answer ultimately would be a Bible, and then I'll give a little context of why I say that. I mean, everybody needs a Bible, but so I was a small group leader for the age range of 4th grade to 6th grade, I would say. And I was talking to the group as a whole, and the question that I had asked was like, what are 3 important things that you need to know about Jesus? And I said, like, one of the important things that you should know is that Jesus is God. And then the kid responded with, Jesus isn't God, there's only God the Creator. And so, just to see the level of, like, I guess, knowledge of how much they knew about just even, like, basic things like level 1 of Christianity was kind of insane. And so, I was happy to be able to walk him through and walk the group through kind of what the Trinity is, like salvation and all that stuff. So that was a really cool opportunity, but I would say a Bible would be a pretty accurate answer.
I probably go with like a kids worship CD almost. I was with 3 to 5-year-olds for most of the week, so like a Bible might be a little harder for them to comprehend, but something that they can watch and do motions along with, just to like learn within that realm of like who Christ is, just through songs. Because at that age group, it's easier for them to watch and go with it instead of reading. So I would say like a kid worship CD.
I would probably also say a Bible. I mean, I only really worked with 2 kids at my party create table, and I was doing other things for the afternoon, so I wasn't really with the kids a lot. So for them, I do think a Bible, because a lot of, like, the 2 kids that I had, they weren't going to church, I don't think. They just didn't seem to know a lot about God, but, like, we didn't talk about it because that wasn't, like, the purpose of that part of the camp. But I think a Bible, just so that whenever they're finally, like, realizing and those seeds are being planted of, like, realizing who God is and getting to know Him, they would have that access to be able to learn more.
For me, I would probably like put a bunch of like stuff for like bracelets to make, because the kids that were in my group, they were really interested in like the crafts that we did. Like we did like this whole like dragonfly that like had like beads for like a verse on it, and that like really, they really enjoyed that, so I would probably do that.
I would send them candy. They love like our Starburst and if they don't have all the chemicals in Europe that we have here, they love like our Skittles, our Starburst and stuff, and Jolly Ranchers. They love that red dye. So I'm so glad.
Which is criminal.
I would say something like this, like a small wristband, as a reminder. Kids usually gravitate towards small things that they can play with. And like they said down there, they're not really educated in the Bible and who Jesus really is. So just something like this is just a small reminder that they can see every day, that they can memorize and just keep in their hearts.
I would say a sketchbook. How much of art is in their history and how much we used it during the camp. coloring books, sketchbooks, pens, pencils, paper, color pencils, that's the word. Something like that.
I'll also have to say Bibles. They're a first world country, so they are able to have pretty much everything else that like third world countries don't. They're perfectly fine with hygiene stuff and school supplies and stuff like that. The one thing that it's actually probably hard to find is Bibles, simply because nobody wants it there. So.
And I had a funny answer, but yeah, I definitely agree with Bibles. Yeah, like it was crazy. Like we did go to a few stores, and there was like absolutely nothing in that regard. So I would definitely say that. And for my funny answer, I'd also say VeggieTales. Cannot go wrong with that. Yeah. So I would say just to wrap up here, because I guess it's getting close to that time. I am just so privileged to be part of this team, and just a few closing remarks. For one, and I think a few people touched on it earlier on, but the enemy, I have never witnessed the enemy work so hard to prevent something, like probably ever. Like for those of you who went to El Salvador, like that trip, pretty easygoing. We went there, no problems. And like even the preparation process, like even that wasn't nearly as taxing, I suppose. But this trip, if I'm not mistaken, I believe each and every one of us has faced some sort of spiritual attack. And even with the airport trouble, like, yeah, even though like now we can, laugh about it and like, oh, we went to Boston, like it was definitely like the enemy trying to prevent us from going to Ireland, because I believe that the enemy has Ireland where it wants it, which is divided, which is separated from Christ, and us being there to open that door to provide an outlet for younger folks and even adults too to receive Christ. The enemy did not want us there, and it was evident that he was just trying to just nail us at every turn. But like Andrew was saying earlier, like the energy that we have, the goal that we had, just the drive that we had to keep this mission going was ever present. Like even though we were exhausted and we had plenty of reasons to be miserable, I mean, like Casey said, half of us did not have any of our luggage for like 2/3 of the trip, but that didn't stop us. We kept going. And it was just really, really powerful to see that on the trip. And then of course, again, like, we're probably not going to see the fruits of who we impacted or how they impacted them, but the Lord knows. And I do believe that there will be many fruits to come from this trip. So before I wrap up here, any final remarks that you all want to say about Ireland at all? Anything at all? Yes.
I'm not familiar with Ireland or Northern Ireland. Did you have any trouble with the language?
So the accents were fine. Like we could totally understand like what they were saying. Some were thicker than others. I think the barrier sometimes that we had was the slang. So one of which that we were told in advance. Now I only say this because it is what they say. So before any of you get on my case, this is what people of Ireland say. If I were to ask someone, and I know I told some people this already, if I were to ask someone, how are you doing? What's going on? How are you doing? You would say, oh, pretty good. Like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. How they would say that is, what's the crack? That is how they were to ask people questions. So, but the other thing was like a bum bag. Elliot over there. Hope you have an example. Oh, praise the Lord. So, what's that? I'll get to that. But they call it a bum bag over there instead of a fanny pack because it would imply something else. Trousers, were, pants were called trousers, not pants, because pants implied underwear. And there were like some other like slang, nothing like absolutely like crazy or anything. But I would say that of all things was like the language barrier. Nothing like El Salvador where it was like a completely different language, but just in the mannerisms, so to speak. That said though, I was also, this is one of my funny stories, I was able to impart some American slang over there. Don't worry, it's not bad. This was one of the days, it was in between the events, and the leaders were having a meeting, and the kids who were carrying over were like running around and all that stuff. And I told them, Papa Squat. When I say that everyone turned their head back at me, they turned their head back at me and they said, "What'd you say? Did you say Papa Squat?" It's like, yeah, it's bloody brilliant. I'm gonna use that. And everyone was blown away by the fact that I said Papa Squat to say sit down. And the kids knew it right away. They picked it up on it perfectly fine. It was the adults that were questioning it. So that was a lovely thing that I got to impart over there. But I don't know, does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add something real quick. So there's two things I want to add. The one thing is that for the most part, I can understand everybody perfectly fine, but one of the pastors, Victoria's husband, I forget his name right now. Yeah, Pastor Andy.
Oh yeah.
He talked really fast and with a thick accent, so I could only make out a good 70% of what he was saying, but I would miss some key words.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one. And then the other thing I wanted to add was that they swear a pretty decent amount out there. I was shocked. The kids in the church would be swearing, and it's just part of the culture, then it's not really much of a big deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just interesting.
Yeah, that was definitely a shock for us too. When we were with Party Create or with the VBS, Party Create was, I was one of the leaders for that. Again, I was doing other stuff for the VBS, but my gosh, the things I witnessed. Those kids need some soap in their mouths by our standards.
It was also funny because at the end of the week, we all kind of started having a little bit of an Irish accent on some words or phrases or whatever. It was really funny. We were on the bus ride at 2 a.m. and you could start hearing the Irish kind of come out from all of us, just from being around it so much. But yeah, no, I agree. Some kids at my table were there's one kid who's gonna name his superhero a swear word, and I just acted like I didn't hear it. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Which, and I think as somewhat humorous as that is, that just goes to show that they they are in need of the Lord, and they don't have the foundation, so to speak, as say we do. But yeah, any other questions or final remarks from the team at all?
You feel you got to them and you received your word?
I would say so. I mean, I know my table, not to brag or anything, but my table was pretty good for the most part. I had two little girls. They were on the spectrum a little bit, but so they did have an episode here and there. But they were, for the most part, pretty well behaved. At least when I was there, my boys, they were also pretty well behaved. They did one or two questionable things, but whenever the Lord was mentioned, it was on the last day where they were promoting the church and they were talking about it. They seemed to be pretty receptive to it. I can't speak for all the tables or even VBS for that matter, but from my bird's eye view of VBS, it seemed like they were pretty immersed in it, if anyone's to.
Yeah, so I can speak for my group. Casey and I were both the kind of small group leaders for that age range. So, at the start of the week, you could see that their attention span was 5 seconds max. And so it was really hard to kind of get them focused and actually listen to what we're talking about during the important parts at the beginning of the week. But then as the week went along, I could tell that they were being more intentional with listening to us talk, and just everything everything that was happening. So just like night and day difference from like day one to the second to last day, just how focused they were. I'll say second to last day because the last day they were insane. But within that time period, they were able to lock in. So yeah, I do think that they definitely gained something of importance during our time there.
There were also a lot of kids that like at the beginning of the week they just went home after Party Create. That throughout the week we started seeing more and more stay over. They would like pack lunch and eat lunch in between, and then stay over for the VBS camp. So that just increasing number was phenomenal to see.
That is also true.
And then for me at the VBS or my small group, there was this one girl, her name was Ellie, and during like our worship shoot, I was like, oh, when are we gonna dance? She goes, I don't dance. And then later on, like at the end of the week, I was like on stage like doing the dances by then, and then I would see her like on the ground doing all the dances. I was like, oh, I'm so proud of her.
But yeah, I would say that they were pretty receptive for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there were some kids who just were there just to be there because their parents told them or whatever the case would be, but I would say the majority of them were pretty receptive to the Lord and what we had to share and what we were doing for them. So, anything else from you guys or from the team at all? If not, yes.
I've read and heard that Ireland's a beautiful country. Did you get any time to see any parts of it? And if so, do you want to tell us about it?
Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Saturday was our free day, so we went out to go see the rope bridge and some amazing sights out there. And then we also went to go see Giant's Causeway, which was a huge hike. And then they had like hexagonal sort of rocks like out towards the water. We have like a photo album of like 2,000 photos just between the 10 of us, and there's maybe like a good 1,000 just of the views that we saw on Saturday. So amazing stuff.
One thing I want to add too, this was a cool tidbit that Brooke told me on her way there. So the rope bridge, that location, there's just, me being a movie guy, I love this. If anyone's aware of the new How to Train Your Dragon movie that came out this year, they have apparently filmed at that very spot, and to me that was just really, really cool. Like, I know I saw it with Dad and my stepsister, or my half sisters, so that was really cool to experience. Anyone else on the sightseeing?
One thing about the rope bridge, which I thought was pretty cool, is Tom and Brooke, the people who ran the art camp, she told me that Tom proposed to her at the rope bridge, and that was so cute.
Really? I didn't even know that. That's great. Good for them.
I think I might retire in Ireland someday. It's very peaceful. It's very open, very quiet, and we spent an afternoon having dinner with the pastors at their place, overlooking a valley full of fields and livestock and crops, but it was quiet. And the only other place I felt that kind of quiet was in Nevada, where I'm initially from. It was nice.
Yeah, and I'll also add too that even the town that we were at, we were in Derry, or Londonderry, as it depends on who you ask. The architecture in that town was even like amazing. Like, I remember we walked along this, it's part of their history with like the troubles and stuff, with the conflict, but it's essentially like this big wall. It's like goes like all the way around town. Just absolutely beautiful architecture all throughout. And even like the cathedrals, like they were beautiful, and the Peace Bridge, like that was awesome to see. But yeah, anyone else on the, if you are interested, we can share pictures. You can talk to us afterwards.
I'll add something brief here. So, talking about one of the bridges or walls that we got to walk around, there was multiple cannons on that wall.
Oh boy.
Dom was a big fan of those cannons. There's probably about 10 different pictures of different angles of Dom sitting on different cannons. So that was a fun sight. Dom sitting on the cannons was a fun sight.
Yeah. So, okay, let me add a little context to that story. And actually a story that I heard. So the first cannon I saw, absolutely loved it. Oh, beautiful. And so me being from the valley, I ran up to it and saddled up and did that whole ordeal. And there was this other tourist behind us, from what I was told, who was French. And someone on this team had said to them, it's like, oh, was you? Okay. Well, go ahead, if you remember.
Yeah, so the French couple walks up and are like really worried at like what Dom is doing. And I was like, I'm sorry, we're foreigners. He goes, oh, we're foreigners too, it's fine. I was like, no, we're Americans. He goes, oh, that explains it.
I was proud of that moment. I don't care what any Frenchman has to say. That was a defining moment of my Ireland trip. No, I'm joking. But yeah, but no, yeah. And even the shops were really cool too. Ooh, wait. There was one moment too where we dropped in on a wedding photo shoot in a very beautiful like courtyard area. And I think they were like flattered that Americans were cheering them on. So that was the other thing. But so I guess with that, it is 12 past. So I'll go ahead, wrap up in prayer. And then if you guys have any other questions, feel free to come up and ask each and every one of us. We'll be here for a little bit. We're going to go to lunch then. But yes, I'll close out in prayer and then we'll cap off the service. So thank you everyone once again for being here for this panel. I really do appreciate it. And again, I appreciate just all the ways that you not only supported me, but this team as well through your donations and your prayers. So I'll go ahead and pray us out. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this time to share not only what we had experienced in Northern Ireland, but in the ways in which you have worked through each and every one of us to bring more kids, to bring more people to you, Lord. And so, Father, I just thank you for each and every person on this team, Lord, who has endured the hardships, who have pressed in serving you and into the ministry that you have called us to do in Northern Ireland, Lord. And Father, I thank you for St. Elias for not only hosting us today, but for allowing them to have an ear to listen in to what we had to share and experience through this trip, Lord. And so, Father, I just pray that you would just bless each and every one of us throughout the rest of our day, Lord, and that those who are listening, that they would be encouraged to just continue the mission, Lord, to continue fighting, to continue bringing more people to you, Lord. So, Father, we love you, we thank you, and we praise you. We pray all of this in your precious name. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Thank you, God. One question for Daniel.
Oh, boy.
After that episode in the restroom, are you all for taking Elliot on the next trip?
You know what? Yes, because he got me the toilet paper eventually. So.
Thank you. Praise the Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you, God, for bringing him back to us again.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.